In this video, we're going to discuss the jobs dimension or projects dimension. It can be accessed from reports, dimensions jobs, or from the jobs projects module. Again, it can be added to any transaction because it is a standard dimension if you have the projects module. If you're in construction, using Sage Intacct Construction, you have the projects module. Why does this show jobs instead of projects? That's because in the company setup, terminology, we can choose to rename certain dimension or dimension types. So here you see a lot more than what we normally have. That's because many of these dimensions are specific to modules. Here we have projects. We go to edit. We'll see that's called job. We can remove this and it'll go back to projects. Since I've done so many videos with it being jobs, let's not cause confusion. Now we're going to use the report module in order to look at the jobs. Jobs, their dimension, in a lot of ways, they're more than that. If we go to add, you have your job ID, which jobs can be imported from a spreadsheet, as we'll get to in a later video, as with all dimensions. You can also have an auto number. In most cases, many people don't do that, just because if we look at it, you may not want to number it in a certain sequence. So you'll have some that'll have a location ID to start with, and then like 001 or 2 or 3 for the specific jobs in that location, or you can have a subdivision. The ID is harder to auto number because of how you might want to see it. So in this particular case, I would say auto numbering is not always your best option. So you give it an ID, you'll give it a name. Your job category is going to be contract, capitalized, internal, non-billable, or internal billable. Most cases it's going to be contract or internal non-billable. Notice the red asterisk. Red asterisk means required. You can also have parent-child relationship with projects, as we see here. So you have your subdivision as the parent project, and then you have each individual lot as a child of it. This allows you to track expenses and revenues on the individual lot and roll up in a report to get the total for the whole subdivision. You have begin and end date, customer. To do invoicing out of projects, you will have to assign a customer. There is another way of doing it if you have multiple customers on the same job, so don't stress. Job status is not the same as this status. And job status can be customizable, so you can add or remove statuses if they have not already been used. You have active, awaiting PO, completed, in progress, on hold. Status is the status of the job as a whole, so you can inactivate it and remove it from the list while still keeping it within the system. And by the way, if you've already posted a transaction to a job, you can't delete it without removing that transaction first. You can assign your project manager, who has to be in the system as an employee dimension, external user or customer, so they can have external access. This is from your user base, your actual users. So unless you give them, you have licenses for it. And if you have a large job, maybe you do. But in most cases, you have to create a user for them, and that gives them access to this job from outside. Now you could create a user for the project, and when they're done, inactivate them so you free up that license. Just be careful with that. And then you have your sales contact, which is sales contact within your company, and they need to be in there as an employee. You have various business rules for time and expense restrictions, which we'll go over during the time and expense and contracts learning modules more in depth. You have additional job information. A lot of this isn't populated because it's based on other information. And I'll show you, I'll open up a job projects that's in use and you can see all this information. You can have your observed percent completed. You can put in your dates, percent completed, and any notes that you want to have for it. You can have your various contacts, primary contacts, ship to, bill to contacts, which most of the time comes from your customer, whoever's the assigned customer to this. In most cases, projects only have one customer. Sometimes they have more. Your billing terms, that's going to be your net 30s, due upon receipt, net 10s, things of that nature. And this is used for when you're invoicing the job. Billing type, time material, fixed fee and expense. Contract amount, the total amount for the contract, currency. Billable employee expenses, billable APPO. That's so if you create bills on you can bill those out if that's what you do. You can have a default department and a default location for this dimension. This is one time when location is not required. In most things, location is required. But this will be default dimensions, so whenever you assign the job to an invoice or an AP bill or something like that, the default department location will automatically populate. You also have document tracking. Intacct will soon be creating a much more robust document tracking for the system. But you have your sales order number, purchase order number, amount, quote number, reference number, and attachments for all those documentation. You also have your resource pricing, so you can put in your employees, what kind of labor, their start date, their labor rate, expense, credit card, cost plus, percentages, APPO. You also have your job summary. This is the fun page. This is the one that has your financial summary, your budgeted summary, usually your estimate, hours and AP spent, invoicing options. If actual billings exceed budgeted billing, you can do nothing, issue a warning, prevent billing, invoicing messages. Let's go to an actual one. I'm fairly certain it has information on it. So let's look at our resource pricing. Let's look at this right first. We have our manager, Gregory Lovett. We don't have any business rules for the timesheets for this. And if you're using a third-party timesheet app or payroll, you're probably not going to have to use these business rules because it'll import the timesheets for you in many cases. This is in progress. It's a contract. Additional information. You see now this information is filled out. Actual duration, 825 hours in this particular case. No percent complete. Maybe they're just slow. Or actually, maybe I just never filled it out. You ship to contracts. You see this has a default location. So whenever we tag this job in a transaction, this location is going to pop up automatically. So we don't have to fill it in. Saves time and reduces error. Resource pricing. We don't have any of that yet, but you can see this information populated. Resource scheduling. We'll get more into that later. The employees. We don't have any assigned to this particular demo. Job summary. So in the financial summary, we have material costs, other costs, billings, labor costs, subcontract costs, project profit margin, equipment costs, overhead. You have your budget billing amount. You have your actual billings. See, it's negative because I don't have it set up properly. Your cost, budget duration difference because I haven't tagged any time to it. You have your hours and you have your employee APPO expenses there. Invoicing options, issue a warning. Now this one, because it's already built out, has cost codes. You will add this in when you create one. And you also have your estimates if you have any for it, which you should. So this will be something that you'll have to add into it once you create the job. You'll create the job, save it, then you'll come in and you'll add your cost codes. In the next video, we will talk about cost codes, and after that one, we'll talk about cost types. Add, and based on you either have your user standard codes, which I'll show you in the next video, or you can create your own ID and name and fill out the information that you need for the cost code if you're not using a standard cost code. It looks very similar to a job, but it's the cost code that will populate the other information within the job. And you also have cost types that we'll show you after the cost code video. Okay? And then your estimates, you can add an estimate, such as this here. We'll get into more detail when we go over the jobs module in that learning section. But just so you know, this is what it looks like. And then we'll cancel out because I don't want to save anything there. And that gives us your projects. In the next video, we'll talk about cost codes.